Part 127. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1265. Roar. Without saying a word, Lehman rushed over, flicked his tail, and grabbed Garen's waist with his dragon claws. Unexpectedly, Garen's claws had already blocked his way in advance. After blocking it, the two dragon claws smashed together. Garen did not move, and Lehman was launched into the air by the recoil. He flapped his wings vigorously for more than 10 times before releasing the force of the recoil. He hung in the air and began to chant a spell. This guy is actually a fellow practitioner. Garen was stunned. He saw a cyan bracelet on Lehman's wrist shimmering, and he rushed forward without saying a word and gave him an elbow. Bang! It was blocked, but Garen's tail took the time to hit Raymond's mouth hard at the same time. Oh! The young dragons below saw Lehman being slapped hard on the mouth by a tail, and they couldn't help but let out a low cry. This is equivalent to stepping on someone's mouth with your foot among humans. It's simply humiliating. The spell on Lehman's mouth was suddenly broken, and he was completely knocked away. It hit the nearby ice wall with a bang, leaving a clear spider web mark. This power was so great that the instructor's eyelids twitched slightly. Garen stood in the ring, swung his tail, and looked casually at Lehman, who was being whipped away in the distance. Another flash sale. "You're too weak, go back and practice for a while," he said casually. Then he looked at the instructor. "Can I step down?" The instructor looked at him 3 times before slowly nodding. "Can." This guy's strength is almost the same as that of an average young dragon. He's so powerful. He is considered a genius among the dragon clan. But the most important thing is his fighting intuition, which is very good. He can make the most appropriate attack at the most timely time. He is simply a natural fighter. Wait. I want to challenge too. Suddenly a young dragon suddenly flew up and entered the ring. It was a little baby dragon that came in behind Raymond. No one noticed him at first, but now he suddenly appeared and attracted the attention of all the dragons. Even when Raymond was killed instantly, he still dared to challenge. Apparently by 2 brushes. Garen took a closer look at the baby dragon. It was smaller than Lehman. Although not as strong as himself, it was still much stronger than the average baby dragon. "Who are you?" he asked directly. "Kyobuso." Lehman's younger brother. The young dragon's ears are a bit slender, like those of an elf, which is very special. His eyes were bright, with an incomprehensible confidence. Then Garen didn't care who came, they were all brats anyway. As soon as he finished speaking, Kyobuso suddenly rushed to his right side and hit his waist with a claw. The speed is much faster than Lehman. It's almost the same speed as Galleon's. Garen's heart was slightly shuddered. In fact, he was not a genius in terms of physical development. If it weren't for the nourishment of soul power and the improvement of attributes, he would actually be an ordinary little white dragon. But now Kyobuso's speed can actually catch up with him. To reach 26 o'clock agility, it is obvious that both nature and acquired training are absolutely essential, and it must have gone through brutal training. It seems that the dragon training in this world cannot be underestimated. He crooked his elbow and just blocked the opponent's claws. At the same time, he threw a deflection and sprayed out a mouthful of white dragon breath, turning into a white sword and hitting Kyobuso in the face. Roar! Kyobuso suddenly released an extremely compressed and powerful pressure all over his body. It was Long Wei. This dragon's power exploded instantly, slowing down Garen's speed and reaction by half a beat. It was this half a beat that gave him the chance. Ignoring the dragon's breath that was covered in ice on his face, he lowered his head and hit Garen hard on the back. Puff! At the same time, Kyobuso's tail hit Garen's right hind leg hard, making a dull impact. The part that was struck seemed to have some special attribute attack, instantly dyeing Garen's white scales into a light blue. It seems to be some kind of toxin. The beating caused Garen's hind legs to stiffen. Bang bang bang. After the attack, Kyobuso took 3 steps back and landed on the other side of the ring. A green poisonous mist instantly sprayed out from a ring he carried in his right paw, shrouding Garen in it. Garen. You actually use props. Despicable, Leona below couldn't stand it and shouted worriedly. That's right. It's unfair to use magic props in the arena, Polly and other dragons also roared. What is unfair? Victory or defeat, life or death, humans will not give you any fairness on the battlefield. They always bully the minority with more, Kyobuso sneered. If he is killed by me and dies here, it can only be regarded as his lack of academic skills. Who can blame him? Instructor, Leona looked at the instructor steadily. But now, as the only instructor who could come to the rescue, he didn't make any move. He just looked at all the dragons coldly. He is right. Victory or defeat should be determined by hook or crook. This is the truth given to us by humans. If we stick to the old rules, how many dragons have died under the butcher's knife of humans? Kyobuso continued to sneer. He didn't pay any attention to the noisy young dragons below. Then, can I also bring magic props to the stage to compete? Polly said coldly. He could see that the poisonous mist was obviously a 5th level spell. Generally, no matter how strong the baby dragon's physique is, it will be seriously injured. Although Garen's physique is obviously much stronger than that of ordinary young dragons, he is still worried that he will not be able to bear it. Looking at the part shrouded in green mist, he felt a little anxious. If you dare, you can also go on stage and give it a try, Kyobuso said confidently. Why don't you dare? Polly was so excited that he fluttered his wings and was about to fly up, but was immediately hugged hard by Saster. No, boss. Kyobuso has at least 3 pieces of solidified spell equipment on him, and he is a genius in the spell class. He can activate at least 5 spells in a row. It's useless for you to go up. Then what do you think we should do? Polly became angry. I'll go. Leona rushed forward and entered the ring. Isn't this the 7th granddaughter of the Great Elder? Kyobuso recognized Leona. What? Are you coming to the stage to avenge your little lover? Calling you a bitch, Leona's body glowed with white light, and a white lightsaber instantly formed in front of her and shot towards Kyobuso with a swish. But halfway through the flight, the lightsaber was distorted by some invisible force, exploded violently, and turned into a ball of light. Its reflux interference, Leona recognized the other party's spell. It was actually the most difficult spell to master, reflux interference. In this case, only when the mental power gap between the two parties is very large, one party can use this to relieve the other party's interference. Spells, even formed spells, can destroy structures. With a snap, Kyobuso's shadow suddenly appeared in front of Leona, and mercilessly hit Leona's face with a claw. Teach you a lesson, let you understand that impulsiveness must be punished. Kyobuso had a ferocious smile on his face. If this is done, Leona will definitely have a large scar on her face, completely disfiguring her face. It's interesting. Suddenly Garen's voice came from the poisonous mist. Suddenly, a white shadow shot out and hit Kyobuso's body from the side. Bang! It was as heavy as a crazy giant elephant and slammed into Kyobuso. He howled miserably and flew backwards. Laugh! Garen didn't know when he rushed out of the poisonous mist, his whole body intact. He chased after him and hit Kyobuso hard on the waist with his claws. Bang! There was another loud noise, and Kyobuso's dragon body was smashed to the ground directly from the waist. The pain was so painful that he almost fainted. I don't know how many bones in my waist were broken. Kyobuso, Lehman looked anxiously below. Garen was trying to kill him. If the fight continues like this, Kyobuso will be killed if he hits it twice. The instructor's eyelids were twitching as he watched, and he sighed in his heart that this kid Jialong was not so ruthless. With the last claw, Garen raised his dragon claw and aimed it at Kyobuso's head. "Help!" Kyobuso finally panicked and shouted loudly. "It's over!" Garen slammed down with his claws. Bang! The claw failed to strike down, and the instructor appeared in front of him at some point, with the dragon claw on Garen's hand. "Instructor, what do you mean?" Garen grinned, looking at the instructor who was only half a meter away. "This adult white dragon is about the same size as an elephant, and is a head taller than him. The body shape is much stronger. Don't go too far. The training center does not allow anything to happen," the instructor replied coldly. "He planned to bully my friend just now." Garen smiled. "I said, no heavy blows are allowed," the instructor frowned. "I told you, he was planning to bully my friend just now," Garen replied word by word. The smile on his face slowly disappeared. "I don't care, this is the arena, I have the final say." The instructor became impatient. "What do you say? Then go die." "Roar!" Garen roared suddenly, and the entire dragon body crashed into the instructor's arms. His claws struck out more than 10 times in a row like lightning, and the dragon's tail was like a spike. The ejection pierced the instructor's face, and a cold, undisguised murderous intent erupted. The instructor's hair stood on end, and his whole body was instantly covered with ice armor. He lowered his head and took a breath of dragon's breath, and at the same time, he clawed hard at Garen with both claws. Boom! The two white dragons, one large and one small, collided violently, exploding into a large cloud of white ice flakes and white mist. A white shadow suddenly flew out and scratched the ground with its claws on the ring. It slowly stopped and hissed, leaving long scratches. The white shadow was clearly Garen. He bent over and lowered his head, motionless. The muscles all over his body were knotted and coiled into an unusually solid feeling. Subtle white chills spread around him. On his right front paw, a drop of white dragon blood slowly dripped onto the ring. On the other side, the instructor was revealed in the white air. He was holding his abdomen tightly. It seemed that he was just attacked suddenly and was not injured. He stared at Garen coldly, and then spoke for a long time. "This will never happen again." "Thank you for your understanding, instructor." Garen smiled, stood up, and stood upright on his hind legs like a human. His white tail flicked behind him like a giant python. The instructor roared, turned around, flapped his wings and flew out of the valley, disappearing soon after. "Get out of class is over," a voice came from far away. "Wow!" The young dragons below were in an uproar. Garen actually dared to contradict the instructor. "That's an adult white dragon." Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1266. Kyobuso was lying on the ring, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. In the chaos just now, he was hit in the face by Garen's claw and his face was broken. At this moment, Lehman was holding him up to resist him. "You have to be careful with Garen, Kyobuso is very vindictive." He looked at Garen and whispered. "You should be more worried about him," Garen said nonchalantly. "What he is more happy about now is not this, but the unexpected discovery he made when he was attacked by level 5 poisonous fog just now. His soul and body unexpectedly resolved their previous state of disharmony for no apparent reason. Now, even if the necromancer and soul masters stand in front of him, they can't find anything strange about his soul and body. The poisonous mist itself carries soul temptation and corrosive damage. However, it mainly focuses on soul attacks, and Galleon happens to have very high soul strength, so what he is least afraid of is this kind of attack targeting the soul. Therefore, the soul damage power of this 5th level spell is not as high as the pure corrosion damage. In addition, Garen's physique has actually reached the upper middle level among young dragons. After being weakened by magic resistance by 1 level, he is therefore immune to most spell damage and corrosion. The remaining damage was negligible to him. Only then can he suddenly break out at the end and save Leona. Garen, turning around, Garen was greeted with a warm hug from Leona. "You are so awesome." Leona's entire dragon hung on Garen. White Dragon City respects strength. As long as they show strong enough strength, they can gain respect and attention. Now that the problem of body and soul coordination has been solved, it doesn't matter if you keep a low profile. The most important thing is to get attention, get more resources, and get the fastest growth. Garen finally took the opportunity to explode and used all his strength to let the instructor realize his current strength. If nothing else goes wrong, the current instructor should be on his way to the Elder's residence and discover the real top seedling. This is a good sign that affects the future hopes of the entire White Dragon clan, and he will also receive a major reward for this. "Garen, you guys are so scary." Polly and Zast came on stage, as well as brothers and sisters Saser, and 3 who came after hearing the news, all surrounding Garen. "I almost thought you were killed," Sast gasped, patting his chest. "Lao Wu is the strongest." "Yes, Galen is the strongest." Sa-san, Sasi and others were extremely confident in Galen. It's better not to confront the instructor in the future. However, Saer still felt a little guilty. He recalled that Garen was so bold just now that he dared to challenge an adult white dragon. If he was in the wild, he would not be able to deal with it if he was eaten by it. Garen's last move frightened him so much that he was sweating wildly. Ice slag was still falling off his body, all condensed from the sweat just now. "I'll see who dares to bully me in class from now on," Sa-san said proudly with a sour face. Garen was surrounded in the middle, but he was recalling how he solved this coordination problem. But no matter how he recalled it, the only possible clue was the encounter in the abyss. All his soul rings exploded, and finally miraculously returned to normal. There is no doubt that the powerful being at the bottom of that abyss saved him. "I have to find an opportunity to go back and take a look." Garen doesn't like to owe others favors, let alone such a life-saving favor. He must find an opportunity to repay it. Although he is still very weak now, as the Demon King, the growth rate is much faster than that of ordinary creatures, and there will always be opportunities in the future. The instructor flapped his wings and glided around half a circle from the side of Elder Peak, then flew into a dark cave. An old white dragon lying at the entrance of the cave opened his eyes and glanced at him. He didn't move, as if he was asleep. Following the cave, the instructor flew several hundred meters and soon entered a large hemispherical cave with a deep blue cold pool in the center. There was an old white dragon that was twice the size of the instructor coiled in the water. This old white dragon was reading a large human book with relish. There are huge reading glasses on the bridge of his nose. "What's the matter again?" it asked casually without raising its head. It seemed that he was aware of the instructor's arrival. "I found another good candidate. I think he can enter the special training camp." Instructor Long whispered respectfully. "What kind of good seedling?" Old Long yawned. "Metal combat or magic?" "Hand-to-hand combat," the instructor quickly replied. "The fighting talent is very powerful," he quickly added for fear that the old dragon would not take him seriously. Sure enough, when Lao Long heard that it was a hand-to-hand fight, a trace of disappointment flashed in his eyes. "You have to know that our White Dragon clan only has 3 places in the special training camp, and only magic geniuses can get the attention of these old guys." "Forget it. What level is Longwei?" he asked again casually. First level. Just getting started." The instructor hesitated. "The first level Longwei, who has just started, is actually worth spending one of your recommended quotas." Old Long finally raised his head and looked at the instructor Long across the pool. "Are you sure you are not joking?" "No, it's not a joke." Instructor Long nodded solemnly. "He is less than 1 year old, but his physical fitness is as good as that of a young dragon." "Very good. No matter how strong our physical fitness is, even though we are physically powerful as dragons, there is an upper limit." The old dragon sighed, "and Arcana can exhaust the mysteries of time and space, which is endless. You have to understand this." However, if there is a monthly supply of ice stalagmites in the special training camp, he will definitely become an extremely powerful warrior. Earlier, the instructor was unwilling to give in. Go back. The only way a warrior can lead to immortality is the might of the dragon. He is not good at the might of the dragon. At least he can't see the excellence yet. It's still too small. Let's see. After some time Old Long waved his hand, and suddenly a huge force instantly enveloped the instructor. This was the hand of the mage, and he was instantly sent out of the cave hundreds of meters away like a small snake. Falling outside the cave, the instructor was still a little unwilling. He finally found another good seedling who could reverse his embarrassing situation. Unexpectedly, the great elder did not approve of it. We can only observe it one more time. He fluttered his wings and turned around to fly away. Deep in the Hawari Mountains. In a deep and dark cave at the foot of the snow peak. Bisinning was destroyed and he couldn't even escape the soul mark. An old voice came from the depths of the cave. The densely packed knight armors on both sides of the cave lit up with green flames in their eyes. For a moment, the dark passage inside the cave was illuminated into a light green. Only by completely destroying all the marks in an instant, or in a closed and isolated space, can he be unable to escape the soul mark. A knight's armor with faint silver lines on his body responded in a low voice. Is there such a thing nearby? The old voice asked. Not found, the silver-patterned knight replied in a low voice. It seems that it is because of the mutated soul. A mutated soul residing in the body of the white baby dragon may be a bait. Baelongshan will not enmity with us for no reason, maybe it's just a misunderstanding. I heard that a little Baelong clan has recently moved near here. Maybe it's their handiwork. Want to crusade? Another silver pattern knight also spoke. There must be an ancient dragon in the clan. The master is still injured and cannot take action. We cannot kill the ancient dragon, the previous silver pattern knight objected. But Basning can't die in vain, the old voice continued. The clue should be in that mutated soul. Use the Horcrux to monitor that soul at all times. Once he leaves the white dragon's protection, take action. Understood, the two silver knights responded in unison. Life at the Elder Peak Young Dragon Breeding Center is boring. At least it's boring for Garen. Training, training, and practice every day, repeated over and over again, all taught some basic skills, which are of some value to ordinary young dragons, but meaningless to him who is proficient in fighting. So he started sleeping in class. Strangely enough, the instructor turned a blind eye to him and seemed to be particularly lenient. And the other young dragons didn't dare to say more about society. After all, Garen's strength far exceeded them. But Garen said he was sleeping, but in fact he was slowly exercising long way. Dragon power is actually an application of spiritual power, so even the ancient dragons who specialize in arcane arts, if they don't practice dragon power, still have unparalleled dragon power. This is the reason. Garen's soul power is naturally extremely powerful, but mental power is different from the consciousness of the mecha world. He has not yet fully understood the relationship between mental power and soul power. His physical fitness is naturally increasing, and with the ball core contributed by the Pain Knight, he can earn a full 5 points of attributes every month. In the blink of an eye, a peaceful year passed. Garen is also over 1 year old and graduated early from the Baby Dragon Breeding Center. He did not participate in the second hunt. According to the instructor, if he was allowed to participate in the Baby Dragon hunt now, it would be bullying the dragon. That's the real injustice. Therefore, Garen joined the youth class without any hesitation. There are many young dragon classes, but there is only one youth class, with only more than 40 young dragons in it. There is a big age gap among them, some are in their 40s and some are in their teens, but the one like Garen who is only 1 year old is still the first one. Even Lehman, who is known as the future White Dragon King, is not qualified to enter the youth class so early. But Garen didn't care about this. The reason why he agreed to leave the leisurely young dragon class and join the youth class was to have the opportunity to hunt again and obtain more crystal nuclei to accelerate his growth. The youth class can already participate in the human mage summoning system of the Dalata Empire. According to the Dragon Clan Oath, at the end of the first year of the year 445, young dragons can sign support contracts with mages. After paying a certain reward as the summoning price, young dragons can be summoned from a distance to participate in the battle. This is one of the contents of the agreement signed by the elders and the king of the Dalata Empire. And he wanted to get in touch with the human society of this world as soon as possible, which was why Garen did not object to joining the youth class in advance. The coach has seen Garen's sophisticated fighting skills. Only a battlefield like young dragon can accelerate Garen's growth. He had already patted his chest in front of the elders for this. It is extremely rare in history for a young dragon to join the youth class. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1267. Kevin Rosser is an ordinary mage noble. His family, which was originally in decline, has regained a glimmer of hope because of his mage qualifications. But all this changed completely when he struggled to revitalize the family. He was actually selected in a mage selection to become one of the people who could sign oaths with various dragons. This is a supreme honor. In the entire Dalata Empire, only mages who have reached level 5 are qualified to be called archmages and have the same status as nobles. The 4th level mage belongs to a position that is neither up nor down. Kevin originally thought that he was already in his 30s and that his potential as a mage had been used up, and there was no possibility of him going any further. However, he never expected that he would have such good luck. Maybe it can bring a new turn for the daughter and the family. With this thought in his mind, he went to the Empire testing site. Inside the round test point building, he realized that he was not one of the rare ones selected. There are more than 10 mages in their town alone among the people chosen for the oath, including even 3rd level and 2nd level mages. God knows how the 2nd level mage got in. You must know that Dragon Clan Covenant requires huge rewards to support a summons. It's your turn. Kevin was pushed by the people in line behind him. He came to his senses, walked forward, and signed his name on the text above. If you are selected by the dragons, this badge will directly become your summoning prop. It is the communication coordinate. You must keep it. The official in charge of the affairs whispered. He is also a 5th level archmage, with a hint of condescending reserve. Said lightly. I understand, sir. Kevin quickly took the badge and left the team. He looked back at the people lining up behind him, and there were 7 or 8 more people in line. I was a little confused. After walking out of the testing point, he looked back uneasily and looked behind him. The testing point was as white and round as bread. There were mages coming from a distance outside. They got off the carriage and walked inside. And these mages all have one thing in common, that is, they are rich. Kevin felt a little depressed. When he just received the news of being selected, he thought he was lucky, but he didn't expect so many people to be selected. Master Kevin. A clear voice came from beside me. Kevin heard the sound and looked over. It was a young lady with green skin. He recognized it. She was Serena, the only druid nearby in the town. Tree skin technique. Master Serena, what trouble have you encountered? He asked in surprise. Only when preparing for battle would he apply tree skin technique to himself. This thing is a 5th level spell that lasts a long time. Enough to last a day. No, I just encountered a wild boar. Selena didn't say much. The druids were all neutral and indifferent. They rarely talk about their private affairs to outsiders. It's you. She glanced at the badge on Kevin's hand. I'll give you a piece of advice. If it were me, I would never accept this badge. Once the dragons are summoned, you will know what will happen next. Serena and Kevin have a good relationship, and they often have dealings in pharmaceuticals and medicinal materials. For her to say this, it is quite interesting. What do you mean? Kevin was not a fool and immediately connected with the recent series of actions of the Empire. The high-level officials of the Empire have signed dragon oaths with a total of 13 clans including Red Dragon, Black Dragon, White Dragon, and Green Dragon. This year, hundreds of adult dragons and hundreds of young dragons have entered the Empire to sign oaths. All of this why? Serena said lightly and looked at the badge in Kevin's hand. Don't make the people around you sad. After saying that, she slowly left along the Cocky Street, heading towards her residence, and ignored Kevin. Kevin stood in front of his carriage and was in a daze for a moment. He was not a fifth-level professional like Serena. Any professional at the Archmage level, a druid, can also be called an Archdruid. The fourth level is completely two qualitative changes, and the channels for obtaining information are also different. And obviously, Serena's warning was obviously well-intentioned. "Master," the coachman asked in a low voice from the side, "do you want to leave?" Kevin looked down at the badge in his hand. Kevin, a beautiful female mage, saw him from a distance and shouted softly, "You can actually get the badge. Tisk, tisk, anyone can get the badge now." Next to the female mage was an old man wearing a great mage robe. He was about 50 years old and looked strong. He just glanced at Kevin lightly. "We haven't seen each other for more than 10 years, but you're still standing still, Kevin." "Archmage Sandra, Alice." Kevin forced a smile. "Respond politely. The grey robes of the Grey Shadow Council are really casual. Such an important emblem is worn casually," Alice said bitterly. "What's the point of giving a low-level mage badge to a low-level mage who has no hope of promotion? One summons can consume all his wealth." The other mages around him all looked over here, as well as some passers-by on the roadside. For a moment, Kevin felt that everyone around him seemed to be watching him. Everyone's gazes were like sharp thorns that stung their skin. "What did you say to me back then?" Alice was not ready to let him go. "Sooner or later, I will stand in front of you as the Archmage. Make you regret it." She learned an impassioned expression, he said loudly. Then he looked at Kevin, who was now lowering his head, with a pointed look. "What now?" "Now I don't regret it at all." "Can I leave?" Kevin's heart felt sad. He had impulsively made the bold statement at the time, believing that man could conquer nature and would be able to overcome the innate limitations of qualifications and become a fifth-level mage. As a result, more than 10 years later, he was still at level 4, there is still no hope of breakthrough. Level 5, this is the level that countless professionals envy. Those who can reach this level are all those who have found a specialization that belongs to their own unique skills. The 5th level Archmage is much stronger than the average mage. The key lies in an instant spell skill. Being able to specialize in instant casting techniques for a level 0 or above spell will consume twice the daily spell slots, but in combat, such skills are enough to allow mages to gain an absolute advantage in the battle without having to chant when facing the enemy. This is a qualitative change. Go ahead, it's the same thing every time, it's boring." Alice obviously meant to embarrass him. In fact, even if the mages are not as hypocritical and polite as the nobles, they will not go so far in public. Alice did this because the conflict between the two went too far. When she abandoned Kevin and found her current Archmage partner, she once planned to give Kevin a large amount of compensation because of guilt, but Kevin kicked her out of the house in public and threw away all the compensation. At that time, she even impulsively swore loudly that there was one day she will definitely break through the Archmage and stand in front of her, making him and her regret it. But more than 10 years have passed, and their daughters have grown up to be more than 10 years old. Kevin is still at level 4. Like most other low-level mages, he will almost never see the opportunity to break through at level 5. If 1 out of 100 mages could break through level 5, it was already a very high ratio. This is as cruel as the threshold from apprentice to official mage. Kevin got on the carriage, and even the coachman felt a fever on his face. He slapped the horse's butt hard and left the scene quickly. The houses and shops on both sides passed by one after another, and there were many more outsiders on the surrounding roads, but Kevin didn't have the slightest intention to observe these. He was holding a fire in his heart and wanted to vent it, but he didn't know how. He didn't dare to take action. The Archmage Alice found had his own mage tower. Even among the Archmages, there were high and low levels. The Archmage who could get the support of the nobles to build his own mage tower would be ranked among the top 5. The middle level is also different. A 5th level mage within the range of the mage tower is enough to confront a 6th level professional head-on. Therefore, the old man named Archmage Sandro was not someone he could compete with or disobey. Now he just wants to go home and watch his daughter. As long as his daughter can have a better development and future, everything will not matter. Now his daughter is everything to him. He pinned all his hopes on Maria. The town was not big. The carriage left the town and bypassed the church of the Lord of the Forest. It was his family's residence, a pretty good small manor. A large windmill stands between several thin fields, and inside is a small black stone house with its own front garden. Looking from a distance, you can see someone taking care of flowers and plants in the garden. Kevin looked at the figure in the garden in the distance, which was a young and graceful teenage girl. He is also wearing a mage's robe, but it is a special white robe with a crescent moon symbol on the chest. The crescent moon represents the elite organization under the Grey Shadow Council, the Moonscar Watch. Everyone selected into the Moonmark Watchers is an absolute genius and an elite who will have the opportunity to directly enter the Archmage level in the future. The Grey Shadow Council is a huge mage organization across the Dalata Empire. If the Snow City in the Dalata Empire is the highest gathering place for court mages, then the Grey Shadow Council is the entire area, including the 5 major empires. A behemoth of an alliance that includes all mages. He represents the glory and ultimate of the Northland battle mage. It is simply not comparable to a Snow City. In the entire Northland, he is undoubtedly the strongest being and has the highest dominance. Whenever he sees the crescent moon symbol on his daughter's body, Kevin feels deeply relieved. He can't do it, but his daughter will definitely be able to go up. The carriage followed the field path and arrived in front of his house. Kevin got out of the car and told the driver to put the carriage away, while he strode towards his daughter. "Maria," he called loudly before he even came near. "Aren't you in Kosoya? Why don't you come back to see me when you have time?" Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1268. Maria turned around. She had an oval face and fair skin, but her eyes were a little small. It was obviously myopia caused by reading and studying. The small eyes ruined her overall appearance and gave her a reserved temperament. "I have something to do when I come back." "Dad, why are you out?" "I came back on a special trip and I have something important to tell you," she said seriously and put down the shower in her hand. Kevin noticed that the H3C in his daughter's hand had already run out of water, but she didn't notice it at all. It was obvious that her return this time was very important. "What are you talking about?" he whispered, hiding a few syllables, and released a silence barrier around him to prevent his voice from leaking out. The translucent film slowly spread out, wrapping the two people and spreading them apart. Suddenly, the outside sounds were completely cut off. And the sound inside couldn't be transmitted. Maria looked at Kevin seriously. "Father, this time the Empire launches the Dragon Clan Oath, you must never pick up the badge." "Never? Dragon Clan Oath? Badge?" Kevin was startled. First there was Serena's warning, and now it was his daughter who came all the way back to remind him. No matter how stupid Kevin was, he knew something was wrong. The badge he was holding behind his back was planned to be taken out as a surprise for his daughter. After hearing this, he couldn't take it out at all. "Why?" he asked in a low voice, trying to calm down. "Because of the badges issued this time, all those who get the badges must be obliged to participate in the war and go to the battlefield," Maria answered seriously. "These badges can 100% summon dragons, but they also have the obligation to go to the battlefield." Going to the battlefield? Fighting against the Black Pattern Empire, Kevin felt his throat was a little dry. "Although I had expected it before, if you want to get something in this world, you must be prepared to pay something. But I didn't expect that the price for this badge would be so high." "Yes, the moment you accept the badge and sign your name, you automatically sign a contract and you must participate in the war with the Black Stripe Empire. Ardalata Empire is at the border between the north and the south. If you want to get the fertile southern land, you must solve the Black Stripe Empire in the middle. This is a war to destroy the country, not a joke," said his daughter Maria seriously. "This is the news from my mother. She came here to remind me not to accept the badge. Only a mage who has no hope will accept the badge and make a desperate move." Seeing Maria's serious and concerned expression, Kevin felt a wave of sadness and complexity in his heart. He didn't know how to tell his daughter. After all, it was too late. He understood his true nature. He was just a mage who made his fortune by relying on magic potions. If the Summoned Dragon clan could rely on the savings accumulated from selling potions to support him a few times, then if he really went to the battlefield, he would really have a narrow escape. He never fought anyone at all. He is a purely academic mage. The badge is already in my hand. This means that the contract has been signed." Kevin tightened his badge tightly, feeling a little helpless and gloomy. Compared to her mother's resources, he was just an ordinary fourth-level mage, and he didn't have any other strong connections in the family, so he couldn't provide his daughter with enough help. As for her mother, she often took her to gatherings with the children of the great nobles, to have academic consultations with other great mages, and to go abroad to conduct academic exchanges with mages organizations in other countries. So much so that now her daughter is already a fourth-level mage at a young age and has joined the Moonmark Watchers, becoming a genius elite and a key training target. Seeing her father's expression, Maria seemed to realize something was wrong. His expression suddenly became tense. "Is it possible, father, you?" Kevin took a deep breath, looked into his daughter's worried eyes, and finally nodded. "I've already received the badge." These words instantly made Maria feel depressed and lost. But it's more sad. Fortunately, as a mage, she had considered this worst-case scenario before coming. "It doesn't matter, don't you still have me?" "Dad, don't worry. I have arranged everything." "Arrangement? What arrangement?" Kevin was stunned. It seemed that he didn't expect his daughter to be so calm. "You must know that the wars in the Black Pattern Empire have always been known for their extremely high battle loss ratio. Even if he goes to the battlefield, even if he is a mage, the chance of trying or coming back is estimated to be only 1/4. Maria took a deep breath and calmed down. "Don't worry, I have been promoted to the 4th level of battle mage." She suddenly stretched out her hand and grabbed Kevin's hand. "This time, I will protect you." Seeing Kevin hesitate to speak, a small round black stone quickly appeared in her hand. "Look, this is the certificate for dropping out of school. I have dropped out of school and come back. You don't have to worry about my academic problems. I have taken care of everything." Snap. A loud and crisp sound. Kevin raised his hands high and looked at his daughter with a look of sadness, regret, and disappointment. "I said I wanted your help. Who asked you to drop out of school? Who asked you to drop out of school?" "Ah!" Kevin couldn't help it, tears burst out of his eyes. He didn't expect that he failed to help his daughter and instead became a drag on her. "Where is the Black Pattern battlefield?" The odds of dying in battle are as high as 4 to 1. His daughter went to the battlefield with him, just in case someone happened to be injured or disabled. It doesn't matter. The right side of Maria's face swelled suddenly, but she still smiled. I have dropped out of school, and your badge may not necessarily summon dragons on a business trip. We don't have to worry too much, maybe it can summon combat power. Where is the strongest black dragon? Kevin looked at his daughter, and the pain in his heart was like a tide, one after another, rising up in his heart. Finally, the two fathers and daughters couldn't bear it anymore and cried in each other's arms. They don't look like two master mages at all. Night. All the mages in the town, all the mages who received the badges, gathered in the center of the town, where a large shed was built. Many surrounding residents were moved out and left the town. Accepting the badge is equivalent to signing a contract. The Empire will be responsible for their various aftermath work, and on the battlefield, if you can survive and establish certain required military merits, you will be free, and the signed dragon will naturally become the mage's exclusive sworn partner. This is what is called, the greater the risk, the greater the benefit. Being able to become an sworn partner with a dragon, even a low-level mage can pose a threat to a high-level mage. After all, even the weakest white dragon and green dragon are naturally at level 6 as adults. So under such conditions, there are naturally many mages who are willing to put all their efforts into it. Kevin and his daughter attended the night summons together with their daughter. He brought a large amount of summoning materials prepared by his family as required. A large number of gems, 7 color gems, and a small bottle of sulfur, which is said to increase the chance of summoning black and red dragons. Among the dragons that can be chosen this time, the black dragon is the most powerful, followed by the red dragon. They all like volcanoes. With hope, they stood in the middle of the crowd wearing robes. All dozens of mages formed a circle, listening to the imperial mage in the middle talking nonsense. Most of his thoughts were focused on what kind of dragons he could summon in a while. The Empire has paid a lot of money to sign the Dragon Oath with many dragon clans. I hope you all will cherish this opportunity. Seize the benefits of the risk and think about it. Once you can come back from the battlefield, you can have a head of your own. As a dragon companion, his status in the Empire is comparable to that of an archmage. The palace archmage said loudly in inciting language. Tonight is the time for you to summon your sworn partners. Once summoned, you cannot repent. After success, the mages will receive recruitment orders and go to the border to carry out sweep missions and fight with the warlocks and mages of the Black Pattern Empire. Of course, the process is not as dangerous as you imagine, and there will be special teams such as the Imperial Hunting Team and Assassination Team to assist you. So as long as you are careful enough, completing the mission is an easy task. Listening to the archmage's nonsense, Maria held Kevin's hand tightly. She clearly felt that her father was nervous. Don't worry, Dad, I'm here, it'll be okay. It's okay, I'm okay. Very good, Kevin nodded, feeling a little sad from the bottom of his heart. As a father and an elder, he actually wanted his daughter to comfort him in turn. I participated in assassination hunting missions when I was in school. Don't worry, it'll be fine. Maria was very calm. It's not like it's an act. Kevin felt his palms were sweating, but he could only give his daughter a gentle smile, although the smile felt stiff even to him. Success or failure will probably be determined tonight. If he can summon the black dragon and the red dragon, his safety factor will undoubtedly be much better. Garen has recently distributed most of his attributes evenly among attribute points, leaving only 1 point as a preparation point for Longway. In more than a year, he accumulated 62 potential points. The potential points here are added to attributes. Unlike other worlds, which require many points to improve an attribute, there are no restrictions here. A point of potential is a point of attribute. However, Garen suspected that it might be that he had not reached the level of qualitative change in his physical improvement. when the body reaches the qualitative change of improvement, if it is promoted further, it will require more potential points to be piled up in order to improve some attributes. This is a process of forced qualitative change. In fact, at this time, the energy required to improve the body is already very huge. It's not like ordinary potential points can be increased casually. But Garen has not encountered this situation yet. He suspects that the potential point here contains enough energy, or that his white dragon body has not yet reached the level of qualitative transformation. In short, of the 62 potential points, he distributed a full 60 points evenly among 3 attributes, 20 points each for strength, agility, and constitution. The remaining 2 points were focused on long way. Muscles are everything. Garen has always believed in this. Strength is everything. He is best at this route. Most of the fighting methods are based on the strength-first style. Therefore, first improve the strength and muscles to form effective combat effectiveness as quickly as possible and ensure survival. Then you will have time to study spells. System. The potential points needed for Longwei were 2. He clicked on them, which just raised Longwei to level 3. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1269. Originally, he didn't plan to order this first. It was the last word to increase his muscles to the limit first. However, after joining the youth class, if he wanted to participate in the Dragon Clan's Oath and go hunting on the battlefield, the minimum requirement was level 3 dragon power. Galen really had no interest in Longwei, so he was promoted to level 2 within a year. With these 2 potential points, it can be directly upgraded to level 3 to meet the minimum standard. The white dragons gathered in a circle on the round stone platform like the sun's corona on the platform where the magical arts were previously reviewed at Elder Peak. More than 50 young dragons all stared quietly at the old white dragon holding a scepter in the middle. Listen to it speak. The Dalata Empire not only signed an agreement with us, but also the Black Dragon, the Red Dragon, the Green Dragon, and the strongest magic dragon, the Purple Dragon. They all signed the war agreement. After you were summoned as the oath summoning object, you must remember that you should not conflict with other dragon clans and be more tolerant. There is no clan outside to protect you. Once you get into trouble, no one will save you. The only ones who can save you are yourself or your mage partners. Compared with other dragon clans, our white dragon clan is inferior to black dragons and red dragons in terms of physical strength, inferior to green dragons in terms of poison, and far inferior to purple dragons in spells. However, we also have our advantages. The ice dragon is not very useful here. Breath is also very powerful for creatures of other races, so please pay attention to this. Be careful not to erupt the dragon's breath at will. Just don't spit a white dragon next to Garen whispered. It turned out to be Raymond. This guy was not convinced after Garen joined the youth class, so he also took advantage of his privileges to join. I hope my partner is the Archmage, another female dragon whispered from the side. She is Mesha, Leona's sister. Because of Leona's relationship, she is close to Garen, and she took great care of Garen in the beginning. Even now, Garen's relationship with her is pretty good. It's all the same, Lehman whispered. Garen didn't care. His current average of 3 attributes has increased by 21 points in more than a year. The average of 20 points is the increase brought by attribute points, which is terrifying and abnormal. The average increase of 1 point in a year is due to the natural development of his white dragon body. Growth comes with growth enhancement. In other words, if his white dragon body does not have improved attribute points, it can only grow and become stronger at an average annual rate of increase. It is impossible to join the youth class and be on par with these young dragons. Now, Garen's first 3 attributes have reached a terrifying 46 points. His entire dragon body still looks smaller than the average young dragon, but no one can tell that there is something more terrifying than an adult white dragon hidden in his body. Strength. Strength is 47 points, which is average among adult white dragons. If Garen hadn't been hiding secretly for fear of shocking the world, he would have wiped out the entire youth class. As long as time allows, he will soon reach the soul limit of his power sooner or later. His limit is not the limit of the white dragons here, but the limit of his attributes accumulated from reincarnations. When will the summoning start? Garen asked this question without asking anything else. I don't know. We are now issuing tokens for positioning. When the mage over there needs to be summoned, he will take the initiative to communicate with us and then reach an agreement to open the portal. Mesha explained. All the benefits of this part of the teleportation are when the mage comes out. It seems that we are going to collect a reward, but in fact, after removing the materials here to open the portal, there are not many that really belong to us. By the way, this is also the only good opportunity for us to obtain other sources of income. There is no hunting ground near the hunting activity for our young dragons to start, Mesha added. I heard that I will fight with people from the Black Pattern Empire, but I don't know who my opponents are. It seems that there are all kinds of creatures, mainly demon warlocks, and most of all kinds of demons. Several young dragons nearby were also whispering. Garen stood indifferently among a group of dragons. He had a muscular mouth but was insignificant in stature. Most of the young dragons around him did not dare to get too close to him. Only a few familiar dragons stood close. The old dragon in the center raised his scepter, chanted a few words, and then sprinkled a large amount of material powder. The shiny powder fell into the hands of all the white dragons, and automatically condensed into a flower of ice. Flower. Take this back with you. These are the coordinates. There will be the first summons tonight. From now on, you can get anything from the summoner as the coordinates for the summoning door. You don't need this thing, Long said loudly. As for the collection of rewards, it's up to you. Each dragon can handle it himself. Then, Old Long used his own teleportation technique to open a light door, walked in, and disappeared instantly. The white light gate also quickly dissipated and dimmed. The surrounding white dragons slowly dispersed. With the ice flowers in their hands, some were discussing in a low voice, and some were tossing them around without caring. It seemed that the white dragons had different attitudes towards participating in the war. Garen and Mesha Lehman flew towards their new residence together. The original cave was completely abandoned, and Garen relied on his privileges to live in a cave halfway up a mountain near the training base. They even pulled Sasi and the others in. Now the clan has begun to ensure their sources of food. Flying along the way, Mesha was chirping casually about the latest news, while Lehman was studying the ice flower in his hand. The three-headed dragons flew side by side. Below is a large number of dotted lights at night. In the middle of the large forest, there are many soldiers of the Dalata Empire. They are holding torches or standing on the tower with spears and walking around. These are the followers of the 5th level knights of the Dalata Empire. The territory close to ours here has been allocated to 5 knights, all of whom are 5th level strong men. Mesha was well informed. Of course, for our dragon clan, level 5 is nothing. We can reach the top of level 6 as long as we reach adulthood. It's just that it will take at least several decades for us to reach adulthood, Lehman added abruptly. So most humans can't wait. They are all short-lived species, and their lives are too short. They all hope to summon adult dragons as contractors. We are the second class. Mesha laughed at himself. Garen did not speak, but just looked down at the soldiers in the forest. From a distance, these soldiers looked like Caucasians on Earth, with white skin, tall height, and very strong bodies. The lack of sunlight is immediately apparent at a glance. Most of the armor on their bodies is a single piece of silver breastplate. It is obvious that these soldiers were carefully selected to be stationed here. Suddenly, he felt something slowly pulsating in his mind, and a man's voice faintly came from the ice flower in his hand. Kevin, Manager Flag, Redala. Once again summon allies outside the gate at the boundary of time and space. In exchange for this, we will fight together. A short dragon language incantation was chanted. Garen just felt like a fly buzzing in his head. This was the first summons he heard, and soon all the rewards were listed one by one. Everything has its own interpretive function and value. It was all introduced by this person named Kevin. It started. My summoner is talking to me. Mesha suddenly stopped talking and said loudly. Me too. Lehman nodded. He glanced at Garen. The white dragon he was determined to defeat also had his eyes closed at the moment. It was obvious that he had also received the summons. I received more than 10. Lehman whispered. Garen opened his eyes and looked at him in surprise. Then he continued to sort out the various voices in his head. It's not just Kevin. Now, a lot of various voices are ringing in his mind, and the voices of various summoners are constantly summoning in dragon language with different accents. A large number of various material rewards were laid out. This calling is like sellers choosing each other. The white dragon chooses the buyer and the amount of reward, and the summoners also choose whether the dragon family is powerful or not. The most important thing is that the reward for the first summons is only the most basic reward. When encountering enemies later, if you encounter a strong enemy, you must use this reward as the basis and increase it upwards. Garen is now choosing his summoner. He can see the summoner's material rewards, and the other party can also see his body shape and appearance. Unexpectedly, there were dozens of sounds echoing in his mind at first, and then soon after the images were transferred to each other, there were only 5 or 6 buzzing sounds left, some of which were obviously strong players who were well paid. The summoner apparently gave up. Among the remaining 5 or 6 paths, 2 are humans and 3 are black elves. Garen doesn't know why black elves have appeared in the Dirida Empire. This kind of spider-loving creature that lives underground has always been unpopular. People are welcome, but these things are not what he needs to consider now. All he has to do now is choose. There are many humans, more than 10 humans, which is really good. Mesha next to him began to attract hatred again. There are more than 50 black elves? Me too, there are more than 20 humans and 3 black elves? But let's forget about those niggas, they're too ugly, Lehman also muttered. As expected, Longway level 5 is very popular. Garen sighed, and now he regretted not raising the level of dragon power. He didn't expect that the selection would be made in this way during the summoning. In this way, others would not be able to see his ability and strength at all, and could only judge through his appearance and dragon power. Judge. His current dragon power was only upgraded to level 3 a year later. This is pretty good and powerful among young dragons, but it is simply a minor role among young dragons. There are too many dragon powers at level 4, 5, and 6. Answer my call, the prominence Thalasra, Great Dragon Clan. The strong man from the sky overlooks everything and despises everything. Your bones and blood will be with me, and we will fight forever. The Great Axe tribe will be your most loyal and reliable partner. Come on, all my money is here. Among the several summoners, only 3 have considerable materials. Of course, this is compared to other summoners. The first one is the Black Elf, which is the Drow. These black people can't tell that they are quite rich. Although they are all strange things, most of them are various shiny crystal nuclei of rare species. Garen decisively chose her. However, when he came to consciousness and exchanged information, the Drow carefully looked at his whole body. Then he looked disappointed. Damn it! This is just a baby dragon. Denisa! Denisa! Get over here, the voice gradually faded away and the connection was lost. Apparently the summoner was dissatisfied with Galleon. Indeed, no matter how talented Garen is now, he is about to go to the battlefield. What the mages need is the immediate combat power now, not the potential in the future. The potential of the dragon family is meaningless to them, because it is at least dozens of it's a matter of the next year. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1270. Garen was disconnected and felt speechless for a while. He could only look at the guy with the second largest number of crystal cores. He was a warrior wearing full armor and a helmet. He seemed to be a male, very serious. He quickly regained consciousness. The soldier was stunned for a moment, and then communicated with Garen. Your long way is a bit weak. Although I, long way, am a little weaker, I am still on par, Garen defended. You're still a young dragon, right? The face under the warrior's helmet frowned. I have no prejudice against any small creature, but what I want to ask in advance is, can you breathe fire? I'm sorry, I'm a white dragon and I can only spray ice. Garen was helpless. The white dragon can only breathe ice? I thought the dragons could breathe fire. The warrior was a little stunned. Then he reacted, sorry, I need a fire-breathing dragon. This is my dream since I was a child. He apologized again and again, sorry. Fine. Garen had no idea how this guy started the summoning ritual. He obviously didn't look like a mage. The third. He is a tall, bald man with strong muscles, wearing gold earrings, a lot of chest hair, and 2 bronze wristbands. Next to it is a whole line of corpses of an unknown giant beast. Come on, I'm well paid here. The giant axe tribe never discriminates against fighting partners. Even if you are very young, even if you are just a white dragon and not the black dragon I want, it doesn't matter. Just leave the fighting to me. You stand back and spray. Just fire, Baldhead said loudly and roughly. Garen looked at the corpse next to him. Although it was disguised, that guy was simply a dragon, right? And it was a young dragon who had just died. Does this guy think he's an idiot? Only a fool can't see such an obvious summoning trap. Galen is speechless. The so-called summoning trap is to use the reward to lure the summoned dragon over, and then kill the summoned dragon as a material treasure resource. These methods are often only used by evil mages, and they are obviously interference from the Black Pattern Empire. Decisively cut off this connection. My mind suddenly became empty. The rest of the summoners are extremely shabby. There are no magic cores among them. Garen only needs magic cores, and most of these summoners are very weak. The weakest one is only level 2. Looking at her pale face, she is about to vomit blood. If you bring such a partner to fight together, then he was going to fall to the ground in a matter of minutes. Omit. Looking at another one, he was tall and thin, like a bamboo pole, wearing a poor mage's robe. His reward was only some ancient-looking antiques, not even an object with mana fluctuations. These things are so cute just trying to summon a dragon. Also skip. The last one, this voice that entered his mind from the very beginning, this voice called Kevin, even though he hasn't responded to the other party yet, he hasn't given up yet. Garen was a little surprised. Take the initiative to pop up your consciousness and contact him. Is there a magic core? Yes, there are 2 level 4, Kevin seemed a little panicked and quickly replied. He released the summoning request, and all the dragons who were slightly in tune with him would hear this request. However, until now, the summoning ceremony was almost over, and the one who responded to him was only a small white dragon. Originally, he had already planned to give up, thinking that it was absolutely impossible for any dragon clan to take a fancy to him. After all, there are too few things that I can bring out that are very attractive to the dragon clan, except for some gems. But the dragon clan likes the gems as a collection, but the various prop scrolls with useful combat effectiveness are the focus. There was no news about the black dragon and red dragon that he had the most hope for, and the purple dragon immediately cut off contact with him. As the contacts were cut off one by one, Kevin's mood quickly hit rock bottom. But at the last critical moment, I didn't expect that the last connection came with the awareness of connection. It seems like you have no other dragon choice, Garen whispered. Kevin groaned a little, lowered his head and was speechless. He has never been a confident person. As a 4th level mage, facing the white dragon, even the weakest dragon clan, the young dragons are all noble species of 4th level creatures. All his original unrealistic extravagant hopes were gone. Now as long as there is a dragon willing to choose him, it would be good. Garen actually has many other choices, such as the underground black ghosts, but he really doesn't like those coal people who look dirty, not only in appearance, but the most important thing is that these black coals believe in the spider goddess, so this guy has always been known for playing with souls, and his kind of soul mutation used to be a bit weak. Forget it, that's it, I don't have a choice. Garen looked at Kevin helplessly. Kevin also saw a hint of sympathy in Galen's eyes. Both were chosen to remain. We can only rely on each other. Let me ask, can the rewards be replaced by magic cores in the future? Garen began to bargain. I'm not interested in gems. That's okay, no problem, Kevin agreed readily. If you don't have a magic core to fight, it's best not to fight with me. It's not cost-effective. Garen continued to make his request. If your opponent has level 5 creatures, the risk factor is a bit high. You need to increase the reward, at least one level 4 crystal core. Is this a bit expensive? Kevin was embarrassed. After all, his income was not generous, so being able to produce 2 level 4 crystal cores at once was already very good. But now Garen actually requires 3 level 4 crystal cores for 1 summons. 3. This was a large sum of money, enough to buy the most expensive villa in town and hire more than a dozen servants to live a corrupt life for a month. This is already very cheap, Garen said casually. Anyway, you can figure it out. You won't be able to get even this little thing, right? He showed that he was negotiating easily and nonchalantly, but he was very serious in his heart. After all, this guy was his only best way to quickly obtain the magic core. Ever since he offended the 7th level Pain Knight last time, Garen felt that there was always something dangerous waiting for him in the outside mountains, so now he didn't dare to go out to hunt for magic cores by himself, and could only huddle near the Elder Peak. And now this summoner will be his main source of magic core for a long time to come. It has to be taken seriously. Also, the number of summons cannot be less than once a month, Garen continued. Otherwise, if the other party only summons him once for a long time, wouldn't there be no profit? Your request is too high, I can't afford it. Kevin was silent for a long time before answering with difficulty. Garen was also speechless. The two stared at each other with big eyes and small eyes, and no one was too lazy to speak for a while. After waiting for a while, Garen spoke helplessly again. So how much can you afford? No matter how bad he is still a dragon, a young dragon, and a white dragon as a 4th level creature. Even if he hires a 4th level mage, he won't be so shabby, right? If a 4th level crystal core is removed as the cost of opening the summoning door, wouldn't galleons only be able to earn a pitiful meager profit? I only have these 2 4th level crystal cores. Kevin's face turned red, and he lowered his head and answered, besides, I sold the house, and I can still get 1 3rd level crystal core. This is all he has. S belongings were lost. Over the years, in order to support his daughter's education, most of the profits he made from making potions without sleep and food were given to his daughter. Mage is the most expensive profession, because just the waste of materials from annual experiments can bankrupt a small rural noble. For those things that failed in the experiment, except for a few that can be barely replaced with some resources, the rest can only be destroyed and wasted. Too much money is wasted every year. For ordinary people, Kevin's wealth is pretty good, but for the Dragon Clan, this is simply a poor thing, and he is so poor that he can't even afford to wear pants. These can be used as the price of a summons. Garen was speechless, but now all other connections were gone and completely severed. It would be impossible for him not to choose this guy. If he had known earlier, he would have chosen Sci. He suddenly remembered that no one would choose him at all. Except for the Kevin in front of me. In other words, he actually had no choice. So, I can only rely on myself in the future, Garen thought speechlessly. I originally had good expectations that I might be able to use summons to earn high-level magic cores to improve my growth, but now it seems that it is just a luxury. This guy named Kevin is not only a poor man, but he also doesn't look like a battle mage. He is obviously academic. There is no future even on the battlefield. Maybe he will die somewhere one day. Forget it, don't bother me if you have nothing to do in the future. Garen let out a deep breath, completely cutting off any hope of earning magic cores through this path. Now give me something from your side as a coordinate. That's it? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm too poor. This is the deposit for the first summoning. Kevin helplessly put his 4th level crystal core into the summoning ceremony. With a scoff, the crystal core disappeared and appeared in front of Garen. Galen's consciousness also left a mark on Kevin. One person and one dragon immediately established a contract and oath through exchange. That's it? I usually like to sleep. If you have nothing to do, don't come to me. Wait until you have accumulated enough magic cores. Garen dropped the words in an unhappy mood and completely cut off contact. The other side. Kevin reluctantly stepped down from the summoning circle where the light was extinguished, and his daughter came forward to support him worriedly. How's it going, Dad? Did you get the contracted dragon? Looking at his daughter's expectant eyes, Kevin wanted to say no, because looking at the attitude on the other side, yes meant no, but he didn't want to disappoint his daughter after all, so he nodded and forced a smile. I was lucky enough to meet a white dragon. Although he was the weakest dragon, the guy I met was very strong. I was shocked at first. That head and body shape were simply not an ordinary white dragon. All that can be compared with the black dragon, very strong. He was surprisingly good at making up lies. It's just that the reward is too much. He needs at least 3 level 4 crystal cores. I managed to reduce it to 2 level 4 crystal cores and 1 level 3 crystal core. Kevin pretended to be satisfied but in pain. This is also very expensive, but fortunately, Dad, you finally have a dragon companion, and you will have a trump card on the battlefield in the future. His daughter was sincerely happy for him. So we'd better not call him at ordinary times, just call him at critical times, Kevin said quickly. Although I don't want to lie to my daughter, I really don't want to disappoint her. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1271. After solving the problem of summoning the oath, Garen had no choice but to return to the cave. A 4th level magic core was not enough to fill the gap between his teeth. SASI carefully wrote something in the cave, which seemed to be a learning course task for the magic class. SA-san and SAER don't know where they are. They have been seen running around a lot recently. Hey ASI, Garen asked casually, feeling agitated. Do you know where Sertszin went? I don't know. I heard SAER mention that he went hunting somewhere in the underground palace. I heard he was fighting with people from the Dalata Empire. SASI turned around and agreed. People from the Dalata Empire, Garen was stunned. Now the Dalata Empire seems to be everywhere, and its relationship with the White Dragon clan is getting closer. Yes, now even all the young dragons must participate in this kind of coordinated combat to cultivate tacit understanding in future battles. SASI glanced at Garen and found that he was a little irritable. I went out to buy materials. He made a random excuse and left quickly. He didn't want to get into trouble when Garen was in a bad mood. Buy materials, Garen was stunned again. He flew out, followed by SASI, and soon flew to the foot of Swafeng Mountain, where a small block built by humans unexpectedly appeared. It was bustling inside, and there were actually 5 or 6 vendors shouting loudly, while dragon guards were guarding the side to maintain public order. Obviously the transaction here was approved by the elders. I really don't know how these people got the acquiescence of Elder Balong. Garen flew down and followed a few young dragons to the block. He folded his wings and ignored SASI. He walked to a stall. I looked up before. He didn't understand the language the vendor yelled, but this didn't hinder the communication between the two parties, because the vendor immediately put on a smile on his face, and then held up a sign from behind, which said in dragon language, "A piece of third-level ice crystal core exchange 2 things." Garen was speechless and looked at the things on the stall. They were all shiny man-made items that could blind the eyes. They had no other function except to look good. What left him speechless was that there were actually baby dragons buying them. A young dragon next to him generously used a third-level magic core to exchange it for 2 glass products at another stall, which were obviously worthless glass products. This is simply a scam. Galen was speechless and went to other places to look around. Some were man-made oil paintings, calligraphy, and paintings, some were high imitation antiques, and even more were various books. These books are extremely expensive, and they are all calculated based on the magic core. And there are no useful parts, it's all novels and poetry. Moreover, most of the languages are not draconic, and Garen only recognizes the titles on the signs held by the vendors. After leaving the trading street, Garen finally thought about it. If he wanted to obtain more magic cores to improve himself, he still had to go hunting. Moreover, the last time I was rescued by that mysterious woman, I had to thank her regardless of whether it was emotional or logical. Although it feels like there is a lot of danger outside, if you don't plan to go out just because of the danger, and you shrink back just because of the danger, then it is not his galleons. After thinking for a moment, he finally flew slowly towards the distance. The person he is now is no longer the person he was a year ago. Maybe the danger won't be too great. Sunfire Mountains. Under an exceptionally white snow field. Suddenly it started to move slowly. The midday sun shines down, reflecting a white halo on the snow. Wow! Suddenly, the snow was lifted up, a large amount of snow powder flew everywhere, and a humanoid creature in black armor actually emerged from it. Hiss! The snow powder on the surface of the humanoid creature's armor melted in large quantities and then dispersed into water vapor, making people feel as if its body was scalding hot with high temperatures. However, in fact, the surface of the armor had no temperature at all, and was even lower than the temperature of the surrounding snow. Here we come. This human figure turned out to be the Pain Knight who attacked Garen before. His whole body was covered with layers and layers of something that looked like black oil. The black oil suddenly began to melt and fell to the ground drop by drop. But then disappeared strangely. Here he comes. Have you notified the master? On the other side, thousands of meters away, a black Pain Knight also rose up from the snow, and the surface of his body began to be covered with a thick layer of oil-like substance. The Lord will see it earlier than us. Let's capture this mutant soul first. We should be able to get what we want to know from its mouth. The 2 Pain Knights were obviously thousands of meters apart, but they seemed to be talking face to face. The sound is not loud, but it can be directly transmitted to the other party's ears. Whoosh! The 2 Pain Knights instantly rose into the sky and shot directly towards the direction Garen flew from. The white snow-capped mountains have sharp tops like volcanoes. Looking from a distance, the snow-capped mountains are surrounded by blue. Flying towards the snow-capped mountains from the front, Galen feels that the air is much purer. Compared with the era of technology, the air here is far cleaner than imagined. After flying away from the White Dragon clan's territory, he rushed directly towards the Sunfire Mountain range. The last time he was traveling through the Sunfire Mountains, he was accidentally chased and got to that place. Now it is probably a bit difficult to find that place again, because last time I was chased, and there was also a blizzard that affected my vision. Flying over the mountains, Garen looked down. White clouds and mist lingered, and the black mountains in between were looming under the white snow. Occasionally, you can see the ice monitor lizard walking slowly on the mountain from a distance. The eyesight of these monitor lizards is extremely poor. Only when they are close to a certain distance can they detect the enemy through their sense of smell and hearing. The mountain is bustling with people, and at a glance, you can see more than a dozen monitor lizards scattered in bits and pieces. A place like this is a good place for hunting. Garen sighed, diving towards a giant lizard at low altitude. He plans to hunt while looking for the woman who saved him last time. The worst one in the Sunfire Mountain range is also the level 4 monitor lizard. The rest are either level 5 or level 6. Of course, this is still on the periphery, so they are all level 4 monitor lizards. Although the levels are the same, they only represent innate spells and abilities. In terms of level, in fact, in terms of strength and temperament, some of the 4th level monitor lizards are also very powerful. So for the sake of caution, Garen followed the leeward position and slowly flapped his wings to approach the monitor lizard in the mountain col, so as not to let it smell his scent. His current strength and speed are much higher than before. The strength of 47 points makes him comparable to an adult white dragon. The speed of 47 points allows him to cross dozens of meters in an instant without accelerating. With a physical constitution of 40 points, he would be able to survive a head-on collision with a giant lizard without any damage. Now Garen is basically an adult white dragon wearing the skin of a young dragon. The monitor lizard in the distance was gnawing at the carcass of a snow deer with its head lowered. Red blood was scattered everywhere, and some places had condensed into red ice crystals. Garen landed lightly on the ground, his strong limbs clawing deeply into the snow. He leaned down and slowly approached the giant lizard step by step. The monitor lizard didn't notice it, and its sharp white teeth chewed the snow deer carcass that was frozen into a lump of ice. There was a harsh clicking sound. Aha! Garen lunged forward with a tiger bite. Like a white snowstorm, it crashed down on the monitor lizard. With one bite, it bit the monitor lizard's throat with a snap. The distance of tens of meters was reached in an instant like the blink of an eye. Blood spattered out and stuck to Garen's face, but he didn't care at all. He stood up and climbed up from the monitor lizard. He grabbed the monitor lizard's body that was about to fall with his claws. He watched him roar and struggle in pain, but he was holding him firmly with his claws. Hey, Garen dug out the giant lizard's crystal core with his claws, weighed it in his hand and threw it away. Level 4 crystal core, it's as simple as that. He has lost the way to obtain the hunting crystal core through the summoning route. The Lashiza mage may have gone to the battlefield now, and he may die in any corner. Next end. He left the giant lizard carcass, flapped his wings and flew into the air. Soon another level 4 monitor lizard was locked on. Using the same sneak attack method, the giant lizard didn't even see Garen's shadow, and couldn't even activate its innate ice armor. Its throat was instantly bitten off, and it died directly. This method is like assassination, almost invincible. Through this method, after Garen obtained 2 crystal cores in a row, he began to take aim at the level 5 monitor lizard that was injured last time. Level 5 monitor lizards are significantly larger than level 4 monitors. Especially the huge, slender, and streamlined tail, which flicks like a whip python and looks extremely flexible. If someone is confused by the bulky size and appearance of the level 5 monitor lizards, once they get close, they will be greeted by extremely fast giant tail lashes. Garen suffered this loss last time. This time he planned to give it a try. Without any cover-up, Garen strode down the snow towards the giant lizard. There is a burnt scar on the back of this giant lizard. It is obvious that it has fought with an enemy that can fire, leaving traces behind. The leather all over his body is strong, and a thick layer of ice armor covers his whole body anytime and anywhere. Different from the 4th level, the ice armor of the 5th level monitor lizard can already cover all parts of the body. As if sensing a hostile approach, the level 5 monitor lizard was obviously on guard. It lowered its head in the direction of Galen as if facing a formidable enemy, and arched its body, ready to charge forward at any time. It seems that it already has a certain amount of intelligence. Garen laughed a little. Level 5 monitor lizards generally do not attack with their heads. This monitor lizard put on such a posture, obviously intending to confuse the enemy and make them think his main attack power is all concentrated on his head, which will make opponents less alert to his tail. But what Garen wanted was a head-on confrontation, so no matter what the giant lizard planned, he didn't care. Walking straight from the front, Garen was still 50 meters away from the giant lizard, slowly began to accelerate, and rushed towards the giant lizard. The monitor lizard's muscles also tensed up. Roar! Suddenly it roared wildly, the ground shook, and this level 5 skill burst out instantly. The shock wave formed caused all the surrounding snow powder to fly away. A large shock wave mixed with snowflakes happened to collide with Garen's rushing body. Garen did not dodge, but blocked the front with his elbow and hit him hard. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1272. Bang. With a huge roar, the giant lizard took several steps back in succession. A large number of cracks appeared on the ice armor on the front of his head. His earth shock was broken, and the 5th level ice armor on his body was almost gone. Was broken open. The terrifying power of Galleon's 47 points of power was finally revealed. This is the power that only adult dragons can have, and adult dragons are the pinnacle of 6th level creatures. Therefore, Garen can already fight against the level 5 giant lizard just by relying on this strength. 47 points of strength have already entered the category of level 6. This collision is equivalent to an adult white dragon hitting the giant lizard head-on. The result is self-evident. And metaphor. The giant lizard was stunned and shook his head hard, with a trace of hesitation and fear evident in his pupils. After Garen finished testing his strength level, he didn't care, he strode forward and hit the giant lizard hard on the back with his claws. Click. The ice armor was broken, the leather armor was broken, and the last cracking sound was the sound of broken bones. The entire giant lizard was knocked to the ground by Garen's claw, and all its limbs were neatly broken off. Roar! The monitor lizard howled in pain. Soon Garen heard the footsteps of another monitor lizard rushing towards him. It was like this last time. The level 5 monitor lizards seem to have the instinct to form groups to protect themselves. It's still like this now. It's obviously not an accident, Garen understood. Although this was not mentioned in class, he could summarize it through these subtle phenomena. He didn't leave, just in time to see what level his current combat effectiveness could reach. With similar qualities, he was confident that no one could confront him head-on. 2 black shadows flew quickly on the snow peak mountains, like 2 black sharp swords, straight and conspicuous. All the giant lizard elders below saw them and knelt down to show respect. This is the divine envoy deep in the snowy mountains, and is the subordinate of the most mysterious existence in the entire Sunfire mountain range. Behind the Pain Knight is more than just a simple necromancer. If it were just the Pain Knight or the Necromancer Master, even the top giant lizard elders among them would not be afraid. After all, there were too many of them. But the being standing behind the Necromancer Master was something they couldn't afford to offend. Moreover, the Necromancer secretly ensures that the depths of the Sunfire mountain range are not plundered and hunted wantonly by outsiders. As long as they don't actively offend the Pain Knights, everyone will be fine. The 2 Pain Knights flew high in the air, flying directly towards the outer layer of the mountain range. Aha! One of the Pain Knights suddenly fell to the snow and looked at the messy blood stains on the ground and a level 4 monitor lizard that had been killed not long ago. Not too far away. Another Pain Knight dropped down and nodded towards him. His strength has grown very quickly. He has increased so much in just 1 year. You also said it's only been 1 year, how can it be increased? Another person said indifferently, what we need to be wary of is not him, but the existence that may appear behind him. You're right. The two inspected the scene carefully and found that the magic core had been dug away, but the same eyeballs were not there. Apparently there was nothing that could be used to preserve it. Then he carefully surveyed the direction in which Garen might leave. The two Pain Knights rose into the sky again and flew in the direction of Garen. Boom! The bites of 4 level 5 monitor lizards were knocked away by Galen at the same time and dispersed. He was surrounded by 4 giant lizards, all of them were level 5 giant lizards. At the same moment, the level 5 giant lizards cooperated with each other and surrounded him fiercely to release the earth shock. They were all overthrown by Galen and a dragon. The huge bodies of the 4 giant lizards rolled in mid-air like bowling balls, flew far away, and then crashed heavily into the ground with a loud roar, howling in pain. Garen stood in the middle and was not hurt at all. If these giant lizards came up one after another, he might be a little tired, but they all rushed up together, which gave him enough leverage and the opportunity to seize the loopholes. Coupled with the instant burst of his own strength and speed, it produced such a terrifying effect like a bomb. All 4 level 5 giant lizards were blown away by him. Too weak, Garen stood in the middle unscathed. Although the quality difference was not too big, his fighting skills were honed over time and could make up for the large quality gap. The explosion of strength far beyond his actual data is the result of this exaggeration. 2 of the 4 giant lizards fell directly to the ground, and both of them hit the cliffs and rocks on the side. After rolling several times, they couldn't get up even after a while. This time, he was shocked by Garen's power mixed with advanced techniques, and his internal organs were directly injured. Garen slowly walked towards a giant lizard, preparing to dig out its magic core. Suddenly he raised his head and looked at the sky in the distance. 2 huge powerful auras were flying towards him rapidly. The same one from last time. Garen was familiar with this kind of aura, because he still carried the core of the creature that chased him last time. A black shadow flashed before his eyes, like 2 bolts of lightning falling down, and 2 painful knights dripping with black oil instantly appeared in front of Garen. You guys? Garen narrowed his eyes and asked. Laugh. He left the spot suddenly, and 2 snow holes suddenly appeared in the snow under his feet. The other party didn't waste any nonsense and started brazenly. A knight took out an umbrella-shaped black knight's gun and turned it at high speed and slammed it towards him. It was extremely heavy and had great prediction accuracy. It was as if all of Garen's dodge directions were covered by his predictions. Another knight drew a strange semicircular arc from the side like a bat, and a black longsword appeared in his hand. The exquisite longsword was only as thick as a finger and was extremely slender. With one stroke, 5 or 6 sword lights were fired in 1 second. Point, and flew towards Garen's waist at the same time. The 2 of them cooperated in perfect harmony, one facing the other, as if they had cooperated countless times. Roar! Garen opened his mouth suddenly, and a mouthful of cold dragon breath spurted out, but what was even more intense was the huge dragon roar sound wave. He used 47 points of strength and 40 points of constitution to erupt with a terrifying dragon roar, instantly forming an extremely powerful sonic weapon that exploded towards the front, sides, and sides at the same time. The huge sound wave squeezed the air and hit the front of the 2 knights hard. Buzz! The 2 of them slowed down their movements at the same time. They didn't expect Garen's violent roar to be so powerful. They miscalculated and suddenly used less strength, causing their movements to slow down for a moment. Taking advantage of this momentary delay, Garen advanced instead of retreating and pounced forward. His claws fiercely grabbed the Pain Knight's gun from the front, using advanced skills to shock. At the same time, he also brought his own ice-pressing knife, and his claws grabbed the weakest part of the side of the knight's gun. The Pain Knight didn't expect him to be so fast. He was caught off guard and was lifted up by him. He raised the knight's spear sharply and thrust it towards Garen's head. But the power of the 7th level professional is so terrifying, and he is a master of hand-to-hand combat like the Pain Knight. This Pain Knight pointed the tip of his gun upwards, and the handle of the knight's gun suddenly popped out a sharp blade, aiming hard at Garen. Cut it hard. The swipe of Garen's tail was like a whip hitting the side of the sharp blade, knocking it crooked. But at this time another person's attack also arrived. The black thin sword pierced Garen's waist like a needle, and the 5 or 6 points of sword light it drew were like the sharpest spikes, as if it could break through everything, and almost touched the scales on Garen's waist. In the slightest moment, Garen's waist muscles twisted suddenly, and he actually passed through the impossible gap between the swords. The Eye of Pain. The Pain Knight on the side roared suddenly, and a black light suddenly shot out from the black rapier and disappeared into the galleon scales. Roar. Garen's whole body strength suddenly surged, and he pushed the knight's gun towards the Pain Knight on the side. His instant burst of power was so great that the two Pain Knights seemed to think they were fighting an adult white dragon. But Garen is not just an adult white dragon. His physical fitness is almost the same as that of an adult white dragon. But if you add his actual combat experience, among those adult white dragons, perhaps only Long Wei, the most experienced warrior, can compete with him. He fights. Bang! The knight's gun failed to close in time and hit the painful knight's helmet on the side hard. The huge and heavy knight's gun dented hard under the impact of Galen's terrifying power. The Pain Knight flew backwards, and a large amount of black oil and black smoke were splashed out. Court death. The Pain Knight on the front is on fire, and the red symbol slowly lights up on the handle of the knight's gun. As soon as Garen saw the symbol glowing red, a warning suddenly flashed in his heart, and he backed away suddenly, darting away without hesitation. It's actually faster than when attacking. Caught off guard, the red symbol on the handle of the Pain Knight's gun suddenly dimmed, and he lost his target because the opponent was too fast. Being flanked and besieged by 2 level 7 professionals, he was still able to continuously change his attack and defense so many times. If word spread about Garen's battle, it would definitely shock the entire White Dragon clan. Is it the same thing as last time? Unfortunately, if it can't be locked, everything is meaningless. Garen laughed, fluttered his wings, soared into the sky, and flew away in the distance. In a short moment of close combat, he caught the opponent off guard, but if it dragged on for a long time, he would be very afraid of the opponent's red rune locking skills, so quickly getting away was the best choice. Try to run. Catch him, the injured painful knight got up angrily. He was hit dozens of meters away and his helmet was dented. This was simply the result of countless wars he had experienced. The most humiliating time ever. He was actually dented in his helmet by a little white dragon who was only a few years old. If word got out about this, he would be unable to behave under the Lord. Needless to say, the Pain Knight of the Knight's Spear rose into the sky and followed Garen. The fact that 2 Pain Knights were unable to stop a young white dragon was an absolute stain on their reputation as knights. 2 black lights, one behind the other, also chased after Garen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1273. Above the white snow-capped mountains, Garen was flying at high speed towards the outskirts of the snow-capped mountains. He was recalling the instinct and feeling he had when he was flying randomly, trying to find that paradise-like place again. The 2 Pain Knights were chasing after him, and they were completely angered by him. They tried many times to separate and encircle Garen, driving Garen in one direction, but Garen completely ignored them. His speed was no slower than theirs, and he flew directly according to his own ideas. During the flight, he faintly discovered that some of the giant lizard elders who occasionally passed by on the ground actually respected the Pain Knight very much. It seemed that they were in the same group. He simply did not dare to continue flying deeper, and instead directly toward a relatively peripheral place. It was getting late, and night was falling. The three of them were still flying at high speed in the sky. The mountains below seemed endless, and they didn't know where they had flown to. And slowly, Garen suddenly felt that large snowflakes began to fill the mountains, and the snowflakes were blown everywhere by the strong wind. A blizzard like a tornado gradually began to take shape. Garen plunged into the blizzard that had not yet fully formed, and suddenly felt a familiar feeling rushing towards him. This is it, he felt slightly happy. The last time he was chased by the Pain Knight for several days, he was not familiar with this kind of snowstorm that lasted for several days. He was able to fight a protracted battle with the Pain Knight last time. This time, his speed was more than twice as fast, and naturally it was even easier. However, Garen was not willing to get rid of the Pain Knight behind him casually. He would even slow down and hang him occasionally. Two people, lest they lose their way in pursuit. Damn it! Where else does this guy want to run? It's a snowstorm here. He will be carried away to a place that is not worthy of any direction. The Pain Knight holding the knight's gun couldn't help but curse. I feel like he is dragging us. The Pain Knight holding the sword calmed down and said in a low voice, "Find a way to inform the Lord, maybe he is planning to lure us to the powerful existence behind him. Last time, wasn't he? Is that what you did? Be careful. When necessary, I will use the one given by the Lord. Don't worry." Garen felt familiar as he flew over. It was the same for him last time. He couldn't see anything in front of his eyes, only patches of endless white wind and snow. If it weren't for the downward gravity pulling his body, Garen himself would probably be facing upwards. It's hard to tell whether it's going downward or forward. But he knew the feeling. It's really wonderful. Garen's soul ring felt a vibration that he had never noticed before, a subtle vibration that seemed like the surrounding space and time were trembling. He tried his best to speed up and fly forward, fighting against the force of the blizzard at the same time, while paying attention to the two Pain Knights hanging behind him. Before I knew it, 2 days had passed. Garen actually didn't know how long he had been flying. He just estimated that it was about 2 days and 2 nights, but the wind and snow seemed to have no end at all, and they were still blowing hard. At present, he just felt that he seemed to be getting closer and closer to the eye of the storm. Finally, the force of the pulling wind and snow became stronger and stronger, and Garen flew in the direction with the greatest strength. Laugh. Suddenly, his eyes suddenly became clear. Once again, he emerged from the blizzard. What appeared in front of him was a pure and silent blue lake. The mirror-like lake water reflected the shadow of the snow-capped mountains opposite. The sky was blue, as if it was not in the Rihuo Mountains at all. The air is terrifyingly pure, so pure that even bacteria can't survive. Garen once again felt the strangeness everywhere. He looked back and saw a huge blizzard tornado that was coming from the sky, and 2 figures of the Pain Knights stumbled out of it, but they didn't seem to be tired at all, and they immediately returned to normal as soon as they came out. The undead are the undead, and they are indeed tireless, Garen sneered. He turned his head and ignored the 2 of them, and flew directly towards the snow-capped mountains in the distance. He began to look for the crack he had visited last time. Soon, he found the gap on the side of the snow-capped mountain that he had discovered when he flew here last time, and crawled in along the gap. It's very dangerous here. The Pain Knight holding the knight's gun flew to the gap where Garen entered and whispered. "We have lost contact with the Lord. Apparently he used this move to kill one of our companions last time," the rapier knight said solemnly. "Should we pursue him or not?" "Can you catch up?" Knight Spear asked. "I think he seems to be hanging us in a hurry. How about we start setting up here? If the Lord comes up, he will definitely be able to solve the problem." "No, it is unwise to do this before knowing the details of the opponent. It will bring huge trouble to the Lord." As long as we don't follow them, they will have no choice but to defeat us, the rapier knight saw clearly. Well said. Both of them were experienced warriors in life. Although becoming undead will damage part of their souls and sanity, they still have high vigilance and quality. They did not follow Garen into the crack, but began to fly around slowly to observe the place. Garen flew straight down the crack. He ignored whether the two guys behind him were following him, but flew downwards with curiosity and awe. The cracks are getting bigger and darker, as if there is no bottom at all. Soon, the crack turned into an abyss, and the black abyss swallowed up all living and dead things that flew in like endless darkness. Garen didn't take it seriously at all and shot straight towards the bottom. He didn't know how long he flew. There seemed to be no sense of time here. He finally vaguely saw a little white light at the bottom of the abyss. This is it, he felt happy and accelerated towards the white light. Countless human faces and black smoke finally appeared again, flying around him. Some made breathing sounds, and seemed to be chuckling, or more like howling. Garen ignored it. Although the black smoke was scary, it could not harm living creatures at all, and he was not afraid. He flew directly towards the light source, and soon, the transparent ball of the light source appeared in front of him again. Thank you for saving your life last time. Come back this time to thank me, Garen hung in mid-air and said loudly in dragon language. The sound was transmitted far away towards the ball, shaking the faces of the people around and sending black smoke flying around like frightened fish. There was no answer in the light source, and there was silence, as if there was no living thing. Garen did not rush, but waited patiently. About 10 minutes passed. There was finally movement below. The light ball naturally became slightly translucent, revealing a woman wearing a black waist silk skirt. Her eyes were wide open, but gave the impression of being unfocused. What are you doing back here? The woman didn't move her lips, but her low and hoarse voice reached Garen's ears through some special means. It's also dragon language, but it seems to be ancient dragon language with some older pronunciation rules. I saved you last time, but I may not be in such a good mood this time. The woman's voice sounded like a man's. It was completely inconsistent with her beautiful and perfect image. I came here this time, of course, to confirm who the being who saved me last time was like. My name is Garen, and I come from the White Dragon clan. I will look for opportunities to repay this kindness in the future. Garen said solemnly. I don't need your repayment, the woman's voice replied. There's nothing you can do to repay me. Whether you accept it or not is your business, and whether I repay you or not is also my business, Garen said flatly. I just want to do what I should do. What he said was a bit decisive. The woman seemed to be a little interested. She glanced at him with her dull eyes. Through a distance of hundreds of meters, her eyes were like searchlights, instantly bursting out invisible but as if they were extremely dazzling. The bright light made Garen's eyes red and almost shed tears. It was like being hit by a laser. Interesting, the woman said with a smile in her deep voice. Little guy from other planes. There is something special about your soul. Garen was shocked, but he immediately calmed down. Since the last explosion of his soul ring was easily repaired by the other party, it was normal for him to be able to see through this. Special, he lowered his head to avoid the other person's gaze and said sincerely. I also know that my soul is special, but I never knew what was special about it. Angelo Byron, the god of potions, once created multi-dimensional potions and released 16.54 million potions. I didn't expect to see one of the successful products here, the woman's deep voice conveyed. The content shocked Garen. God of potions, he said in shock. Your situation is a bit interesting. It has special research value. There was a faint smile on the woman's calm and perfect face. You mean, my soul is special because of the multidimensional medicine created by the god of medicine? This is Garen's first time, the first time he has encountered someone who can see his soul. The deepest secret source. If the other party didn't lie to him, then looking at it this way, the woman in front of him might have a terrifyingly high level of existence. In an instant, he thought of a lot, but in an instant, he suppressed all distracting thoughts. Facing such a great existence, all his thoughts may be under surveillance, and any disrespectful thoughts will be like those under a microscope. Bacterial plaque generally has no place to hide. Your soul has reached a certain level through self-training and qualitative transformation. I am very interested in these qualitative changes in your process, which may have a positive effect on my practice, the woman's strange male voice continued. What do you mean? Garen's heart trembled. I can make a deal with you, the woman replied in a low voice. Trade. You have two choices, the woman said softly. First, cooperate with me to complete the experiment until I understand the nature of your mutated soul. As a reward, I will pay you the soul-enhancing treasure you want, and you compared to the one on my body now, it will be more than 10 times more effective. More than 10 times. Garen knew that she was talking about the Pain Knight core that he picked up last time. That core gave him twice as much potential as before. If there is another treasure that is 10 times more. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1274. Now the core of the Pain Knight was wrapped in a plant leaf and hung on his hind leg. He is increasing his soul power anytime and anywhere. If it is more than 10 times, then he may have more than 30 potential points in a month, which can greatly shorten his growth rate. It only takes a few years or at most 10 years. He may be able to completely restore his peak strength and achieve true planet-destroying level combat power. This is an unimaginable temptation. It saves him the possibility of searching for resources and experiencing danger everywhere in the future. He only needs to cooperate with the other party honestly to conduct experiments. The second is that you cooperate with me to complete the experiment, and I will give you soul adjustments. Give you another ability similar to your current ability, which is equally powerful. The woman explained calmly. Which one do you choose? There was silence in the abyss. Some subtle things silently penetrated into Garen's consciousness, tempting him and shaking him. These things seemed to emanate from the woman's body, colorless, odorless, and shapeless, like insects. Garen didn't answer for a while. The woman seemed to have no sense of time at all. She maintained her appearance of waiting for an answer without any change. For beings like them, perhaps the unit of time is calculated in years, and a year may be just a nap for them. Garen finally spoke. It took more than half an hour before he spoke. I don't want anything, he said this with difficulty. I also felt a little regretful in my heart. Whether it was the first condition or the second condition, it was an unparalleled temptation for him. That kind of temptation is like suddenly putting a bowl of fragrant food in front of you when you are hungry, and suddenly putting a glass of drinkable water in front of you when you are thirsty. As a reward for saving my life last time, I want nothing and am willing to cooperate with your experiment unconditionally. Garen suppressed the temptation and hesitation in his heart, and suddenly felt that his soul ring seemed to become purer. He resisted the temptation in his heart and made a decision straight along his true heart, rather than being moved by external objects. This is also an exercise for him. You don't want anything, the woman was slightly surprised. She paused, then showed a hint of understanding in her eyes. I understand. She seemed to see the subtle changes in Garen's soul, and her face finally had a real expression for the first time. It's not bad that you can resist temptation and make choices for the beliefs in your heart. Now that you have decided, then, on this day every year, you come over once and cooperate with me to complete an experiment. Is that okay? Garen nodded. I see. You have to understand that your choice is yours to decide. I will not pay you any compensation, the woman repeated. I understand. Garen nodded again to confirm. The woman looked at him quietly for a while, and suddenly the surface of the light film shook slightly. Countless faces of black smoke quickly gathered together, fused and landed on Garen's neck, and actually condensed into a slender and exquisite black gemstone necklace. "This is your certificate to enter here. You don't have to go through so much trouble next time. No creature can come in here without my permission," the woman said calmly. "I understand." Garen lowered his head and touched the necklace. It was cold and had an indescribable clear feeling, as if he were touching a pool of clear water. This feeling was very strange. He was obviously touching a physical object. "My name is Garen. You can call me." And the woman closed her eyes, and the light film became blurry again, making it difficult to see what was inside. "And," Garen repeated. And didn't make any more noise. Obviously she didn't want to talk to him anymore. Garen thought for a moment, then flew out of the abyss and towards the outside of the crack. To his surprise, after the black gem necklace was on his body, the black smoke with human faces no longer dared to fly around him. Instead, they all fled away with fear on their faces. And told him the most important news. If she hadn't lied to him, then Garen knew that his innate ability was probably one of the tens of millions of potions created by the potion god named Angelo, and it was just an unexpected success. Garen believed that and had no need to deceive him, so her words were more than half credible. He was thinking while flying towards the outside world. If the mutation of his soul is really the mutation of the medicine spread from this world, then it means that the gods of this world have a way to communicate with the world where his original Earth is. When he thought of this, his heart felt a little hot. How many years had passed? Returning to the Earth, returning to the life before he traveled through time, was still the dream he had hidden deep in his heart. He wandered outside again and again. As he traveled through time, the fatigue in his heart became heavier and heavier. He has always wanted to go back and have a look, but he has never found any information about the world when he came. Flying out of the crack, Garen immediately saw the two pain knights floating in the air outside, waiting for him. "You finally came out. I thought you were dead inside," the knight sneered with such pain from the knight's gun. "I originally thought I could capture you instantly, but I almost capsized the boat. This time I'll see how you run." The other party's tone showed a sure-footed attitude. Garen sensed that behind him, there was no movement at all. It was obvious that he planned not to interfere at all. The last time he helped him, he was in a good mood. He couldn't expect him to help him again. 2 7th level Pain Knights tutored. This kind of existence is considered a high-level undead creature even among undead creatures, second only to the strongest 9th level Terror Knight. A top-level creature among knights, in human society, a 7th level being can serve as the lord of a large city in some remote countries and be awarded the title of Earl. But here, in the Northland, an empire with highly developed military power like the Dirida Empire, two such beings suddenly appeared out of the wild. He couldn't help but thank his luck for being so good. However, although An won't help me, I have to make an appointment with him to complete the experiment. If my life is in danger, won't her experiment not be completed? So. Garen was determined, although he was a little shameless. But for the sake of victory, this shamelessness can be ignored directly. He chuckled inwardly. He looked at the two 7th level knights maliciously. Just use them to test An's attitude towards experiments. You guys. Garen stretched out his dragon claw. Let's go together. He made a look of contempt. But obviously, as he expected, neither of the two pain knights were easily angered, but actually got in together. Two rays of black light suddenly shot straight over, and red runes flashed on the knight's gun and rapier at the same time. The light of the runes was like a flame, exploding, and instantly enveloped all three of them, including Garen, and disappeared instantly. In mid-air. The final battle to the death, two pain knights and Garen appeared in a small red space at the same time, as if they were in a spherical space. The two knights shouted and rushed towards Garen at the same time. In such a small place, Garen had no way to dodge, and there seemed to be a rule that prohibited him from dodge. The only thing he could do was to confront him head-on and confront him head-on. The two knights actually simply created a rule space that was completely beneficial to them. The rules of this space were based on the real world, but were higher than reality. This was the first time Galleon had seen this kind of power. But in a head-on confrontation, he is never afraid of anyone. Just look at his current limit. Garen violently mobilized his whole body and was about to exert his strength when suddenly a heartbreaking pain exploded in his waist. This pain came so suddenly that he was caught off guard, and the strength he had just mustered was suddenly deflated. At this moment of slowdown, he could only watch the weapons of the two pain knights getting closer and closer to him. The strong sense of crisis instantly made the scales on his body almost stand up. Long way. Boom. Garen suddenly condensed the third-level dragon power into a beam, and instead of rushing towards the weapon in front of him, it exploded directly in his chest. Bang! His body was immediately moved back a small distance by the force of the explosion, just in time to avoid the heavy blows of the two weapons. Avoiding the crisis, Garen's whole body's power flowed, and the entire dragon curled up together, like a white ball tightening. Laugh! He suddenly ejected and opened his whole body, thrust his dragon claw forward, and used the ice pressure knife and shock techniques at the same time. The wings on his back vibrated at high speed, and the 47 points of agility instantly exploded to the extreme, and the whole body's strength was concentrated on the 2 points on the dragon's claws. This is the truly invincible, peerless dragon claw hand. Specialize in 2 points on the upper body. For some reason, Garen suddenly thought of this line that he had heard in a movie before. His current posture can be said to be an extremely authentic dragon grip, right? As soon as this weird idea came to mind, the mighty gesture that had originally exploded suddenly felt a little wretched. His two claws were grabbing straight at 2 points on the chest of the painful knight, the knight spear in front of him. Shameless, what he didn't expect was that the cavalry spear pain knight was actually a woman. Seeing his posture, I couldn't bear the shame and anger, and immediately burst into laughter. His strength had already exploded to the extreme, but this time with added anger, he even used all his strength. In the red space, dragon claws, knight spears, and a black thin sword smashed together. The extremely hard dragon claw immediately exploded with a crack and turned into countless fragments flying. The knight's gun and rapier also showed tiny cracks at the same time, and they were also cracked by the collision. The whole bodies of the three were shaken at the same time, and the huge reaction force was fed back to the three of them. The armors of the two 7th level knights suddenly rippled with large black oil-like ripples. They took 2 steps back before buffering 47 galleons of strength plus a huge amount of energy. The impact brought by the high speed. Garen was in a terrible situation. The instant explosion not only shattered his claws on the ground, but also almost cut off his 2 forelimbs. In other words, his constitution was as high as 40 points, and his amazing unloading skills prevented him from being completely destroyed. The claws were cut off, but even that was very miserable. White dragon blood was scattered everywhere, and his entire dragon was hit by the backlash against the inner wall of the red sphere space. After all, he was only at the 6th level. Facing 2 7th level creatures, his combat power was already astonishing if he was not killed instantly. At this moment, what he didn't expect was that the 2 pain knights on the opposite side saw that he had almost lost the ability to resist, but they did not come over immediately to continue the pursuit. Instead, they stood there and each took out a small yellow stick from the gap in their armor. The scroll, that scroll was tied with red silk thread, pulled out the thread, and the two were about to unfold the scroll. Presumptuous. Suddenly there was a huge earthquake, and the entire red space trembled and collapsed. The space fragmented, revealing the pure snow-capped mountains and lake environment outside. Anne's voice came from nowhere, and an invisible force instantly spanned thousands of meters and fell directly on the two knights. Boom! The bodies of the two knights instantly ignited with terrifying black flames. The flames did not have high temperatures, but they released an extremely desperate and shrill aura. "Spare your life," the Pain Knight holding the rapier howled loudly. "Aha!" A burst of black light flashed, Garen's eyes were dazzled, and the two burning Pain Knights disappeared in an instant, as if they had never appeared. He stared at the sky in front of him in astonishment. "Is this the end?"